Hiya, thanks for joining me on June 4th, or 4th of June, depending which part of the world you're from, and how you write it. If you look at it with the dash, June 4th, use the dash as a 1, 6 is June, 14, that becomes 14th of June, Trump's birthday. The other way around for 4th of June with the dash, same principle with the 1 for the dash. It's then backwards, June for the 6, 41, 14 backwards. 41 as well being the 13th prime, for a bit of a master of time there, which I will also get to in a minute, because 13 is playing out big time today in the national press, along with something else that I will get to. Yeah, Trump's birthday coded in the date itself. 6-4 on its own. 8 times 8, of course, so it's the double 8. 88 miles per hour time travel for Back to the Future. Also, I'll get to in a minute. Trump, of course, as well being 88 in ordinal. So there's Trump's birthday for the 14th of June. There's Trump for your 88 in ordinal. So that's covered that part just for the date itself today. 8 being the hourglass shape, which is a visual representation of time running out. Shows itself the sands of time passing through it. Gives you a visual representation of how long there is left till it's finished and it's ran out. Going back to the 13 Master of Time, notice how when you put those two together, the 1 and the 3 combined together, starts to look like an hourglass 8 with a B almost. You could make an hourglass out of a B shape. The sand bit could be running down that parallel bit there. All you'd need is a little gap at the top of that for it to work. Hope that kind of makes sense. So that's the date. This is my infamous book that has the date for each page. There's your June 4th. Oh look, it's the Hourglass Nebula. Let's just try and get that a bit clearer so you can read that, pause that and read that if you wish. Sorry about that bit at the edge. Anyway, that's what it looks like. That's apparently a Hubble image of the Hourglass Nebula. You can see the 8's in there. It's got multiple ones. Vesica Pisces being created in the middle. That's effectively what a star looks like as it's emitting all its energy towards the death of its life. Hence why it says sands of time are running out for the central star of the hourglass shaped planetary nebula. Its nuclear fuel is being exhausted. Sun-like star. Just a reminder that we were just talking about how the date itself represents the 8s. And Donald Trump as well. I think I misrecorded that last bit in the wrong ratio. Yeah, that's the link to the hourglass that we were just talking about. Donald Trump's birthday hidden with the dash. Trump 88 ordinal. Closely linked to Back to the Future. With the Biff character. Specifically in Back to the Future 2. Hiram a Biff. Hiram a Biff. You're hired, you're fired. Trump was the apprentice. Boss, wasn't he? Before he became a president. They then hired him a biff. That's the hourglass, yeah. 13 closely looks like one when you push the two together. Time running out. Right, moving on then to the daily newspapers for today, 4th of June. A lot of them talk about Madeleine McCann. That front page does. As does that one. As does that one. As does this one. Oh, as does this one. It's all about this 13 years, as you've noticed. Just talking about Master of Time for 13. So, big date in the papers for 13 and time today. Oh, it's time. To nail Maddie, prime suspect. Time. And there it is again. The Times as well has it. Metro doesn't, but I'm going to get to the other story of today in a minute, which is this. Yeah, and that. So, majority of them, Madeleine McCann. This story I'm going to get to after. So, the Madeleine McCann, 13 years being the big time stamp on this. Says there again, 13. "13-year hunt" there. Okay, so I'm not going to go too much into Madeleine McCann, but one thing I've tried to always do with this channel is show something that people may not have known before. I started off pretty much just teaching myself stuff. Then once I got a grip of all of that, I figured out that my numerology for my birth date equals 33. What that means, it's a master teacher number for numerology. That's what I've then tried to incorporate and be able to show others how to build on their thoughts and ideas, specifically to do with breaking through this spell that we're all in and the coding. Now that I've figured it out to do it myself, it was then my, I guess, aim to pass that on to other people. So yeah, I tried to kind of show something that other people didn't really know beforehand. So let me just show you that. The McCann family come from somewhere very close to where I was born. They come from Rothley, as showing there. Rothley, okay. Rothley has a massive connection to both the Knights Templar and specifically Mary Magdalene, who in a way is the goddess that the Knights Templar worshipped. They thought that she was really the Holy Grail, the woman, the female, sacred feminine. But yeah, I'm not going to go too much into it. I'll leave it up to you to have a little look at that if you wish, and delve into that rabbit hole. But Rothley Chapel, mentioned there. Wikipedia has a whole big page about it, of Rothley Temple. But note there, Rothley itself has an annual festival in July to honour Mary Magdalene. Madeleine McCann. Double M. It's one huge ritual for Mary Magdalene. Is the Madeleine McCann story. Clicking on the Rothley Temple link, it tells you about the Knights Templar and the Knights Hospitaler, where it's located. I've actually stayed there. There's a building next to that church that is now used as a hotel, with all the traditional still building. Knights Templar. Trouble is, as soon as you press the history on it, it gets massive. But so does the whole of this story. The whole of this just goes into Knights Templar. It's too much to go into now. But all you'll need to know, is Rothley itself, where the McCann family come from. Heavily steeped in tradition with Mary Magdalene, which is Madeleine McCann ritual. It's practically the same word, Madeleine, Magdalene. So hopefully that will be the big bombshell for my viewers today that didn't realise that. 13 years on. It's one huge Mary Magdalene ritual for Rothley, where they have a yearly celebration of Mary Magdalene. The double M, of course, quite obvious. It's a dual 13. 13 years on. Master of Time. Already spoke about. 13:13 PM. Featured in my previous videos, if anyone ever caught those. To do with this corona ritual, proven by numbers that it was a pandemic. 1:13 PM. I spoke all about that in those videos. 113. Corona epidemic date. Mary Magdalene links to the coronavirus as well. So that's Mary Magdalene bit covered. Now this is the next bit I want to really focus on. And this guy. Again, I'm not going to go into too much to do with this, because we know it is one massive ritual. What I will say first of all though, is how racism isn't actually a real thing. It's just in people's minds. It only exists in people's heads. And it's been put there by propaganda machine has put it there. Hasn't it? How else would we ever even consider judging anybody by their colour of their skin if it wasn't put there into our heads from when we were young? And it's passed on through our parentage and our upbringing. It doesn't exist. Racism doesn't exist. It only exists when it's being pushed as an agenda. Example, you'd never be able to have a White Lives Matter protest, because that would be deemed as being racist itself, because it's generally considered that it's white people who instigated racism in the first place, linking back to, of of course, the slavery in America in the days of Abraham Lincoln, etc. That's why it's always to do with the black and white, dark and shade, light, darkness. You know, the positive and negative. It's the male and female, black and white. It's the same thing. Positive, negative, black, white, brightness, darkness. We wouldn't know what brightness or light is without dark to compare it to. You have to have one to have the other. There is no conflict involved. It's only in our heads that there's a conflict, and that can be expressed in everything. This is a metaphor for ourselves, because there's dark and light in every single one of us. It doesn't matter what colour our skin is. We all have the ability and potential to do bad things, which is the dark side. But we also have, you know, the option and choice of trying not to do that and live in the lighter side of life and the positive. This, though, is trying to just obviously, look, you can see his expression. Do you think that's trying to help this matter? It's talking about matter, and I'm going to get to that as well in a minute. This is really just used to stoke the fire even more. In Britain, John Boyega is British born. He's obviously a Hollywood actor with the links to the America for the film industry. But he was born in Peckham in London. He's British. Hence he's being used as that role model figure for the young black generation, of course, to stir up now the protests in this country. Now, I've got respect for this guy. I think he's a really good actor. I really do. I really enjoyed recently Pacific Rim Uprising, which he's in. I thought he was excellent in that. Good film as well. I'm going to get to that film because that's Pacific Rim Uprising. Uprising, yeah? What's he doing here? He's creating an uprising. His face has got that emotion and that anger on it. Pacific Rim Uprising. He was also, of course, most famous for his breakthrough as Finn in Star Wars. Finn is F-I-N-N. Finn can link to sharks, fins. iPet Gate 2, anyone? Chalkboard. Finn as well is also linked to movies, because at the end of, well, silent movies, it used to come up with that slide, didn't it? Finn, that it's finished. End. The end. Finn. Anyway, he was a Stormtrooper. So he had a mask on then. I can't draw a Stormtrooper mask offhand. But he took that mask off. So he rebelled against the dark side in Star Wars. Are you catching my drift now? And he joined the Rebel Alliance. Rebels, rebelling. Star Wars is the metaphor of the opposite way around. We think that the rebels are the good people because the dark side is portrayed as bad. This is exactly what this is all about. Black people portrayed in our heads and in our minds through history, through white people, that black is bad or in some way inferior. Star Wars is a metaphor of racism. Dark side, light side of the Force. Hence the Force is all in all of us. I've already said that. It goes back to it being in all of us. It doesn't matter about your face and the colour of it, because we're all the same. And of course that's true. But it's also true for that colour there, the white colour. Because all lives matter. Everyone's life matters. And that even goes for the evil ones of the world. Their lives still matter. I feel sorry for them that they can't do good and have done evil, and they're not repenting for that, and they're not aware of it. But we have to have that faith that all lives still matter, because who are we to be the ones to cast that first stone? We're not without sin, of course. Anyway, that's my little bit about racism and how it doesn't exist. The world needs to snap out of it. These things aren't helping. This isn't really helping, is it? It's an agenda-driven thing. So I'm a bit disappointed, to say the least, with a guy that, did you still like? Don't say I don't like him anymore. It's a shame he's being used in this. He doesn't need to get involved in this, but he's obviously under a contract as part of his contract with fame. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes. They have to do these things, don't they? Hence why there's the rituals with sports people as well. It goes through to that. Bill Cosby, arguably one of the most famous black people of our generation, recent times, he had to be shamed through the system. Positive, negative, again. Anyway, John Boyega. Of course, most people will know this. First order of a Stormtrooper skirmish. That's significant. Awakened his conscience. Drove him down a different path. Conscience being awakened. Generally what's happening now. Just not quick enough for most people and being awakened in the right way. But it's certainly happening. So it's to do with conscience and thoughts. Again, a reminder that racism only exists in people's heads if you allow it to. So he was most famous for rebelling against the dark side, taking his mask off, his helmet, from being a stormtrooper and joining the Rebel Alliance. Arguably his next biggest blockbuster film. I don't know whether it was a blockbuster, but it's worth watching. It's on Netflix. I really enjoyed it. Uprising. An uprising. John Boyega. I think this bit though is significant for Pacific. The Pacific Rim forms part of the, what's it called again? That Ring of Fire, isn't it? The Ring of Fire. West coast of America. Joining up with then the back end of kind of Asia and all the other side of the world. But the Pacific itself, Pacific. That also links to Back to the Future. Train in Back to the Future 3 was a Central Pacific Railroad steam locomotive. This is from Futurepedia page. Train number 131. So you got your 13. There you go. Master of Time reflector there. 13. Either way around. Backwards, forwards. That's just linking in, yeah, with Back to the Future. For Pacific. Pacific Uprising. John Boyega. Marty McFly, just to show that that story is about Back to the Future, of course. So Pacific linking in with Back to the Future as well, the 3 for the train, John Boyega. Already showed at the beginning of the video with the 88 for today's date, 8 times 8, 64. Biggest number in Back to the Future. Time travel trump, 13, 131. 131 is the train number for Back to the Future 3. Right, so going back then with John Boyega. Big story today with him leading the protests for the UK. The uprising, the rebellion against racism. I've already said how Star Wars is a metaphor for racism. Dark side, light side. I've just realised throughout this video I've been pronouncing his surname wrong. Oh, my apologies for that. For some reason I thought it was Boyega. It's Boyega, isn't it? My apologies, Boyega. Yeah, it's the big focus. There is again. Same picture used there. Black Lives Matter being the emphasis. And this is what I think as well it's representing. It's to do with black matter, dark matter. What most of our universe allegedly is made up of is dark matter. Which has the irony, of course, because there's always irony, black and white. There's always got to be that irony between it. It forms most of our universe, apparently, but it's the most little known thing that we have. It's so hard to have any understanding of it, because you can't obviously detect it very often or see it. There's nothing really that if it's dark, it's, you know what I mean? It's like it's got that contradiction in itself. Yet we somehow know that it forms 85% of the matter in the known universe. Dark matter. Dark side. Black Lives Matter. What is dark matter in simple terms? They don't absorb, reflect or emit light. They cannot be detected by observing electromagnetic radiation. It cannot be seen directly. Yet we know that it exists because of the effect it has on objects around it. That's the only reason we know it exists, by other things. Hence why racism only exists by the actions of other things. People. Only exists in people's actions, racism. Stop acting like you are racist. And I mean that to every coloured skinned person in the world, every colour of skin person in the world, black, white, anything. Don't act like racism exists and it won't, is the point I'm trying to make there. Dark matter only exists because of the effects of other things. Racism is the same. It only exists because of the effect it has on, that's people there, that we can observe directly. People. Black and white people. Any race of colour across the whole world. Stop allowing racism to exist by removing it from your thought process. It's very difficult when we have all of this being pushed our way, I know that. Again, hence the irony, of course. We live in a world of irony. There's no getting away from it. You have to just accept it. It then becomes, you become oblivious to it then. You don't let it affect you. When you realise that it exists, the irony of the world, positive and negative, there has to always be that irony between the two. Not the conflict between the two. It's accepting that there is that divide and always will be, because it's not a division in terms of what this is representing, one against the other. It's one with the other. Black, white, black, white. It's us. We're both of it. We're everything. All of us are. Black lives matter. White lives matter. Dark matter. The video's getting a bit long, so I'm not going to bore you too much with gematria, but you can have a look for yourself. But some interesting ones that stand out straight away. That's how many days there are, 111 every single year, leap year or not. That's how many days remain in a year as of September the 11th. Also non-leap year non-leap years, 111th day is always the Queen's birthday as well. And 111 is always the NHS phone number in the UK. That's 3 times 13, so we've already spoke about 13. That's 3 of them. 13th of March was the national emergency date for America. This is becoming another national emergency scenario, isn't it, with the army being drafted in, with the riots and protests. 6 and 9, so that's always that conflict that we're speaking about. Positive and negative, round and round, always going wrong. Yin and yang, black and white. Time going in is 6, time going out is the 9, spirals. It's always going round, the spiral of time. These two for dark matter. Black Lives Matter, remember, is where we got the dark matter connection from. 651 extended, 159 reverse ordinal. You'll notice if you flip that upside down, 651 upside down is 159. 651 upside down is 159. Why is 159 in this video? Because it's got prime factors 3 and 53. 53 is the 16th, so you got your double 8 for 16. 3 is the second prime. So you got 2, 16 there. 2 and 16. A lot of people know already that's 6 times 6 times 6. For your 216. Also 159 minutes. That's 2 hours 39 minutes. Plutonium 239. It's how you create nuclear weapons. Again, linking back to the future. Plutonium 239. So yeah, extended and reverse ordinal are the same because that's a flipper of it. Dark matter in Bacon 137. So you got a capital D just at the beginning, creates the 33rd prime number. 33. Again, my birth date numerology, 33. The reason I keep doing these videos every now and again to try and do some master teaching of what I see, to pass on to others and inspire hopefully some other way of thinking about things. I'm not trying to teach you how to think or what to think, but just planting some of those seeds of consciousness to consider, and then leave it up to you. 137 for dark matter anyway, Bacon. Dark matter in the Jewish, reduced 33. Normal Jewish 411. That's 3 lots of 137 on the 33rd prime. See that? 3 lots of the 33rd prime there for 411. We already established 3 is the second prime, so it becomes almost like a 233, because that's the 33rd. 233, linking us back to Master of Time, 13th Fibonacci number. See how that works for the 411. Anyway, the video's gone on a bit. I'm just going to end it now with one last bit of gematria. A reminder of why I've chose dark matter as my subject matter for gematria. Because of this. The Black Lives Matter. It's given us that hint already. Dark matter. It is a dark matter being pushed in the agenda with the racism and the suggestion that something as horrific as they're suggesting has happened. Whether you believe that or not, again, it's your choice to believe it or not from the evidence that's there. I choose not to. Black lives matter though, as do white lives. Everyone's life matters. Already said about John Boyega, I'm getting it right this time, hopefully. Representing obviously the conflict through Star Wars. He took his mask off as Finn, the Stormtrooper, joined the rebellion. He rebelled against the dark side of the Force. He even gained some of his own Jedi skills at some stages, didn't he? Again, metaphor of racism, Star Wars is. He was in Pacific Uprising. Uprising. That face is creating an uprising, an uproar. Dark matter then. There you go. The cipher that goes up in 6s. There's your 3 of them. Take care, everyone. Remember, it'll only exist if you allow it to. Stamp out racism in your own mind, and then it won't exist in your life or around you. It'll only exist on these screens that they're pushing it for.